I want you to get your important numbers checked. If possible, if there's any way to do it, get your important numbers checked. What does that mean? It means you need to go to a doctor and you need to get your blood checked. So what we usually want people to have, these are some of the basics. And again, we're going to put a list up for you, but we really want you to know your waist to height ratio. Your waist should be about half of the size of your height. So you want to measure that to know what your goal should be, where you're at, and what your goal should be. You can't change what you don't know, what you don't measure. So we want you to do that. And then your blood pressure, obviously. So we want you to know the basics, your heart rate, things like your blood sugar, but even more important than your blood sugar is your hemoglobin A1C. That's a number that actually measures your sugar over several months. It actually measures like how much sugar is sticking to blood cells, which actually is also a sign of premature aging, because that process is actually aging organs faster than it should be. So it's a really good indicator for you to know where you're at and where you need to get to. You want to know your basic chemistry level and your blood cell count, just to get an idea of where you're at with all of that. You obviously want to get your cholesterol checked, but if possible, the cholesterol numbers don't mean all that much without getting an extended profile or something called a VAP, a VAP. What that is it tells you what kind of cholesterol you're making, which is much more important than just knowing what the number is. For example, if you're making big, fluffy LDL molecules, that's the quote-unquote bad cholesterol, which bad is sort of a wrong term, but the big, fluffy molecules of LDL are not nearly as dangerous as the tiny, dense ones. It'd be like the difference in throwing all day long, throwing a tennis ball at a wall versus throwing a golf ball at a wall, right? The golf ball is going to do a lot more damage to that wall over time. That's what's happening to your blood vessels. Also, which one is more likely to get through? So that's why you want to make, like through a tennis net, think of a tennis net, which ball would get through. So you want to know what kind of cholesterol you're making, far more important to know. And your thyroid, things like your thyroid, vitamin D, and testosterone. Did you know if any of those are out of whack and too low, you're probably never going to be successful long-term on any program, because you're probably using willpower, but then your hormones are sabotaging you. You've got to have optimized thyroid, vitamin D, and testosterone to really succeed long-term. And those are easy fixes. Then you want to get something called your CRP, or C-reactive protein, measured, because that's a sign of inflammation. That will tell you what you need to, whether or not your body's inflamed. And then you can measure it again to see how well you're doing. Your homocysteine, it's another measurement. It actually tells you a little bit about heart function as well as inflammation. And then your ferritin. One of the reasons I have people check ferritin is because if your iron is low, it's a form of iron, but if your iron is low, you're going to feel really lousy. And these are all simple things to fix with some supplements or some simple dietary changes. So that's the basics of what we have checked. Now, sometimes we do an extended profile. Obviously, for women, we have them get their female hormones checked depending on what stage of life they're in or what's going on with them. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.